Hello everyone, this is Jamie Abelson and I'm the Director of Programs at the League of Chicago Theaters. I want to welcome everyone today for the June 2023 episode of the League of Chicago Theaters Industry Podcast. The League is a nonprofit organization that is here to support, promote, and advocate for our membership of over 200 performing arts organizations across Chicagoland. This monthly podcast is for industry professionals and theater lovers to showcase the amazing performances and programs being created by Chicago's passionate theater community. Each month we'll bring you industry updates, interviews, and performances from around the league, starting with a welcome from our Executive Director, Marissa Lynn Jones. Thank you for joining us and keep up the good work. Next up is our In the Community segment, where we interview members of the Chicago theater community about their exciting projects and programs. Hi everyone, I am Jamie Abelson. Welcome to the In the Community segment of the podcast. I am here with the wonderful education staff at Chicago Children's Theater. I'm just going to have you all introduce yourselves and tell us your positions within the education department. Why don't we start over this way?
Great. Hello, my name is Sivan Spector. I am the Education and Community Programs Manager, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Sam Marciri, they, them. I'm the Director of Education and Access Programs.
Hi, I'm Megan Dilworth, she, her. I am the Education and School Partnerships Manager here at Chicago Children's Theater.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we are here at the beginning of June. I understand that next week you kick off a summer of programs and summer camps, and things in this room will not be this quiet again for a very long time. But I know that throughout the year, you have a million different programs. I'd love to just hear a quick overview of the programs that you're primarily focused on. Why don't we start with Sam?
Yeah, for sure. So I get to oversee all of our education programming, but what I'm specifically focused on is our Red Kite programming. Red Kite is a series of classes, camps, performances, and in-school residencies for youth on the autism spectrum and other neurodiverse youth. So we get to promote self-expression and other social emotional learning skills while getting students on their feet and moving and exploring stories together, both focusing on identity and community and ensemble building.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Megan, tell us a little bit about what you work on.
Oh, yes. So I work on or manage our residencies. Those are all of our off-site partnerships that can range from CPS schools to charter schools, private schools. And so we can go into the classrooms for in-school programming, or we can do after-school programming. And so after school, the kids can have fun in an acting class or improv class or movement dance class. So have lots of fun with that. We do workshops as well. So it can be a one-day workshop, 1 week workshop, whatever they want. And so that's a lot of fun.
Savon, how about you?
Yeah, so coming up real soon, we have our summer camp, which I manage along with all the rest of our on-site programs here at the station, 100 South Racine in the West Loop. Our summer camp is really special. I just want to tell you a little bit about it because we get to use the studio theater, which is really unique, and all our camps are devising based, so we're really focusing on ensemble building, collaboration, theater skills, and making original theater, which is very Chicago, in my opinion. And in addition to that, we also have free before care and after care during our summer camps, which is really great. And a big part of our summer program also involves apprenticeships for college students and also for high school students. And we actually got a grant through the Illinois Arts Council to be able to pay the high school students, and also the college apprentices are always paid, and we feel that that's very important in order to be able to bring people in who otherwise wouldn't have had access to a theater internship or apprenticeship like that. And then during the school year, we have classes here in the afternoons, and we also have free pickup from our local neighborhood school here, Skinner West, which is really awesome, and we really try to be integrated in the community, which brings me to the last part of my role, which is managing our community events. And those really range from open houses that are free to partnerships with libraries or bookstores doing story time to Arts in the Dark parade, and all of those programs are things that are involved in the community and free for all families and for our community of families who come here. So that's a really fun thing that I get to do. Yeah.
What else do you feel like makes the camps here and the programs here unique?
Totally. So I think that what makes us really unique is that we're looking at all aspects of the theater process. So every single one of our camps has a drama teacher who's kind of the facilitator and the director of the devising process, a music teacher who's devising music and dance with the kids, and a design teacher who's building props, puppets. We do a lot of puppets, and painting backdrops and that sort of thing with the kids. So we're really allowing them to have a hand in every single part of the process. And I would say that another thing that's really unique about our programs is just how much of a focus we do have on accessibility, which I know you can speak more to, Sam. Both in terms of our Gen Ed programming, we really include people of many different neurodivergencies, not just in the Red Kite programming. And I think that makes for a very unique learning environment.
Is there anything, are there any new projects or exciting new ideas that you are looking to bring to the programs this summer?
Yeah, so we have a couple of new camps that we're trying out for the first time. One of those camps is called the Great Planet Earth Parade. So I had so much fun doing Arts in the Dark this past fall that I was like, the fun can't stop, and we need to make it a summer camp. And so we are doing a camp that is going to be a parade, and the kids will still be making theater, but instead of the traditional theater that happens in a black box, we will be doing outdoor spectacle theater and exploring storytelling, and also really exploring crafts and making things to convey our story. So I'm very excited about that summer camp. And we also have a new summer camp that's called Story Explorers, and that's a half-day camp for Rising Pre-K and for Rising Kindergarten, and those camps are going to be super duper fun. Sam is helping me pioneer them. They will be teaching the first camp, and those camps are really based on reading stories and then using that as an entry point for sensory-based dramatic play and imaginative play. And those camps will also have a final show, which will also be an original piece of theater. So stay tuned to see what those kindergartners come up with, or sign up if you want. We do have some space available in our second Story Explorers camp that's called Story Explorers Blast Off during the first week of July.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Sam, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Red Kite Camp, what that is, and if there's any way that artists or teachers could possibly get involved in the program?
Totally. Camp Red Kite is a 3-week-long half-day camp for youth ages 8 through 22, youth on the autism spectrum, and they rotate through 3 classes per day, the same kind of 3 core classes that we explore in all of our adventure camps as well, so drama, music, art, and design. By the end of those 3 weeks, they have created songs and scenes and monologues to share, and they share them out in a final performance. It's really joyful and celebratory. And we have a great team of highly trained teaching artists. We partner with CPS Diverse Learner teachers. We also use it as an opportunity for teaching artists to get trained by assisting the camp. Part of that is the Red Kite Summer Training Program for Teaching Artists of Color. Applications for this year have closed, but we're continuing to do it year to year. We just want to really make more pipelines into what is kind of the niche role of being a teaching artist with accessibility and inclusion tools and strategies in your repertoire. And especially a lot of the way that tends to go is most of our staff has tended to be white. And so how can we disrupt that sort of, hegemony within our teaching artist roster?
Sure, absolutely. Megan, could you talk a little bit more about the Roar residencies? And I know it's a fairly new program, and what was the impetus for creating that program, and how is the program going to move forward?
So it's ROAR, so it's Residency of Arts and Resilience, and I have to give original creation credit to a team of wonderful teaching artists of Chicago, and that's Terry, Lizzie, May, and Micah, and they worked during the pandemic, essentially. Our artistic director, Jackie Russell, wanted to create, just thinking about the pandemic, thinking about the social dynamics that kids were going through. We all heard that, trauma in the household. Some kids weren't eating, so, just having to go to school online, and so this was impacting, creating stress for students. What can we do as theater artists to help them cope and give them tools? And so I got the baton, right? And we're going to develop further and take more of a deep dive in how we're creating theater activities now that we're in person in the schools, because again, it was on Zoom, It was the pandemic, but now we're in person and it's a little more lax, a little bit more. And so we're going to get a team together. We're going to do some further development and some activities in theater, but it's essentially allowing students to come and say, this is what stresses me out, these are challenges I have, how do I use my imagination, my creativity to go into another world that can help me manage those big emotions. And so we're working. I'm excited about it. I think it's something that is really helpful for a child to learn, carries them up into adulthood. We also had a partnership with Magic Theater San Antonio, Texas, where we collaborated between their education team and our education team, and we brought some Roar activities there that we were able to workshop. Hopefully they get to come here to Chicago. We're working on that. But that also was an extension of our artistic director who felt, these are communities that experience trauma. Chicago public schools, private schools, those kids experience trauma. San Antonio community, a lot of those communities have families in Uvalde were affected by that, the shooting, and really wanting to say, what can we do to bridge arts in trauma-informed work, and how can we make sure our teaching artists are equipped for that, right? And so that was a part of that partnership.
So just to wrap up, is there anything that you would like the League membership, the Greater Chicago theater community to know about your work here, ways that they could get involved if they're interested?
Yeah, so we usually hire on a rolling basis. I would say always check our Work With Us page on our website to see what job opportunities we do have available. And we're often looking for people with just interesting skills that they want to share with children, like people who teach music or musical theater, people who do clown or puppetry or improv. Yeah.
We're also often looking for more early childhood creative drama teachers and early childhood music teachers. So if you like hanging out with the littles, you should definitely come play with us.
Yes.
And I must echo Sam's our teaching artists of color, because we're on the south side of Chicago in Hyde Park, because we're in Pilsen, bilingual.
Just with some of the residencies.
Yeah, and we try to be so community based. We just welcome you to apply and come teach with us.
Definitely.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking some time out of a day leading into your very busy summer. You can learn all about these education programs and camps at chicagochildrenstheater.org. Have a wonderful summer, and the kids are lucky to have you all and these amazing programs. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Next up is our Fresh Faces segment, where you'll get to know some of the people working behind the scenes to help our industry thrive. We'll interview administrators, technicians, and creators across our membership about their careers, organizations, and artistic pursuits. Hi everyone, this is Jamie Abelson. Welcome to the Fresh Faces segment of the podcast. I am here at Facets with John McDevitt. They prefer they, them, theirs pronouns. They are the community engagement manager here at Facets. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, excited to be here. I think this is my first podcast, so
Fantastic.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. We're really excited to be here today. Tell us a little bit about where yourself, where you're from, and how you found yourself here working at Facets.
My goodness, this could be a very long story. So I grew up in the Chicago burbs until I was about 9, and then moved into the city. I've been here ever since, and I've been a lifelong film fan. I grew up with my grandma introducing me to a lot of great films. She was a horror fan and kind of turned me into a horror fan.
Your grandma?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we did watch kind of more like the kinds of films you would expect your grandmother to show you in terms of horror films, like the Universal Pictures monster movies and the Abbott and Costello crossovers, but also showed me a lot of really gnarly slasher movies, and it was fun. And took some film electives in high school and some summer courses in film and animation at Columbia College here in Chicago, and took a couple more film courses in college. And yeah, I've just always loved film and television and really all forms of storytelling, live theater. I'm also kind of an old-time radio addict. I started volunteering at Facets about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And did that for about 6 months, and then got hired here in the video rental store. And then picked up a little extra work in a projection at our cinema and media education for our field trips. And during 2020, started doing some remote customer service work since we were all stuck at home during the first year of the pandemic. And then early last year, got promoted to community engagement coordinator, and which is primarily a development role. The focus is absolutely fundraising and also developing sponsorships and partnerships. And late last year, got promoted to community engagement manager. And yeah, it's been an exciting journey, and working here is really wonderful.
Great, wonderful. So yeah, tell me about some of the programs you all have going on right now. I know you're doing
so much right now. What are some things that you'd love for people to know about?
Yeah, so we have 2 monthly programs. One of them is Trivia Night, which is hosted by Rafael Martinez and has a screening accompanying it that Rafael programs. We also have a monthly anime club that's members only, and it's usually a double feature, a longer feature, and then a shorter film. And this weekend we have a series programmed by our primary film programmer, Charles Coleman, that looks at some of the films that won big awards at the Cannes Film Festival that have a connection to Facets.
Great.
And last but not least, I've also got my own program coming up here. It's a Cronenberg edition of something that I've been doing here in Chicago called Fetish Film Forum. And it's exploring queer, trans, and kink themes in the films of David Cronenberg at this one-time only extension of the Facets.
Is there anything in terms of this space that you would love for the League members to know about in terms of this space as a rental space or as an event space?
Yeah, it's a really, really exciting event space that people have been using in so many creative ways. And there are different tiers. You could just rent the cinema. The studio space here is also available, as is the cafe that we're standing in right now. And sometimes people use it for birthday parties for kids or even for adults. And sometimes they're local filmmaker premieres of short films or features. But really it's a very flexible space that you can use in many different ways. We have screens in every part of the building. Of course, the cinema and also the studio and the lobby and the cafe that you can activate with whatever content fits your event. And yeah, it's just a really fun place to hang out. And I hope that more people check it out. And more people have been checking it out year by year since we started focusing on these private rentals. Yeah, it was a way to bring in some income during the early years of the pandemic. And it was so successful that we just kept on doing it. It's good stuff.
Great, absolutely. And people can find out about all these programs and spaces at facets.org. Did I have that right?
Yeah,
fantastic. Well, thank you so much. You can find out again about all of those programs and space rentals and things coming up at facets.org. Thanks for talking to us today, John.
And thank you for inviting me. This was really fun.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great day.
Next up is our Art in the Office series, where we head out into offices and rehearsal rooms across Chicago to preview some of the exciting work coming soon to our stages.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Art in the Office segment of the podcast. I'm Jamie Abelson. I am here with Matthew Yee and Amanda Dennert to chat about their upcoming production of Lucy and Charlie's Honeymoon, premiering at the Looking Glass Theater. Matt is the composer, writer, and a performer in the show.
Yes.
Absolutely. Amanda is the director of
and
the
music
show.
director.
And music director of the show. Wonderful. So I'm just going to jump in with some questions, and then we can just chat generally, and then at the end, stick around. We'll see some photos from the first rehearsal and get a sneak peek, listen, of the music from the show. So, Matt, there are some very evocative phrases in the description of the show. You know, the idea that these characters are first-generation Asian American renegades, the idea of fleeing expectations, crossing stereotypic borders. You know, those are some of the words. Can you unpack what some of that means to you as the writer of the show?
Yeah, so the story as a whole is about the American dream and searching for the American dream, and in that way, searching for your own American identity. And it's through the lens of these two Asian Americans whose parents were born in China, born in Asia, and so they're the first generation to sort of like take this new step as Americans and try and figure out what that means for them. And they have all of this pressure and expectations because I think a lot of children of immigrants struggle with like this idea that our parents sacrificed so much to get us here, and now it's like, what am I supposed to offer? Like, how do I make this the best return on their investments?
Right.
And these people, Lucy and Charlie, have found that pressure too overwhelming, and have instead found their hope and their dream in sort of this what's the word? Romanticization? That's not the right word.
Romanticized.
They've sort of romanticized the idea of the old, sort of old America, old West, cowboy culture. It's something that is very present in American culture, and it's this thing that they've latched onto, is this idea of like what it means to be an American to them.
Gotcha.
And so rather than becoming the model minority, they've decided to become the outlaw minority, and they fall
the anti-model
minority, exactly. And they fall in love and they get married and they start a life of crime together.
That sounds so fun.
It's a lot of fun
while it lasts.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So the show takes place in current times, and they're sort of actively searching for sort of a past moment or a different America. Okay.
And that's definitely what we've found in like the whole design and the sound and the shape of the show, is that it feels like something from another era.
Mm-hmm. Retro.
Right, it's very retro, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's a great segue. So Amanda, just reading about the play and hearing a song or two, it evokes so many iconic American crime, love stories, right? So I'm immediately thinking Bonnie and Clyde, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid from like a friendship angle. I started thinking of Natural Born Killers, even Kill Bill. So I was just wondering, are there any particular pop culture influences that have informed the way you've gone about directing the show, hiring the designers, the sort of production design of the show?
I mean, pretty much everything you just said.
Okay.
That there's this iconography of the renegade outlaws on the road, and also as the plot develops in the story, we move into kind of what I'd say thriller territory, which is just a great genre to work with. And the whole piece feels interestingly like it's got roots in the American 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. Like, it's really kind of in the way that I think we would, this is such a thing to say, but contemporary postmodernism.
Okay. Absolutely. Now you know what you're going to see and hear.
Well, in the way that we all carry all the influences that we grew up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so for these characters, they are carrying the influences they grew up with on the family side and on the Americana side.
Got it. So it's a total. There isn't like a moment in time that you're trying to recreate. It's like all of the memories and the kitsch and the stuff from your childhood that like evokes this feeling of the renegade.
Freedom. Yeah,
freedom.
When latching onto that, and then what that means for different characters in the play, because it's really well written, and so that is reflected in all the characters in their own ways. Everyone is dealing with their who they thought they should be, and what they thought their future would be, and then what it actually is. Yeah. Which is just what makes it a very universal story.
And such a and such a amazing fantasy, right? Because we all rebel in our own little ways, but we wish we could rebel in these big ways.
Absolutely.
Right? That's fantastic. So Matt, tell me just a little bit about your history and experience with music. When did you start creating music? How does and then also, how does being a musician and a performer and an artist fit into these ideas of Asian American stereotypes and have you had to deal with kind of that? Is some sort of in the life have you chosen? Is it sort of in some way have felt like a reaction or a renegade moment for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Well, first I'll answer the first question. I started playing when I was a kid. I never took lessons or anything. But my grandpa on my mom's side, I'm half Scottish and half Chinese, and my Scottish grandfather was a musician, and he came over in the 60s from Scotland, and he played Celtic punk music. That was like the style that he really loved to play, and he would play in the pub in his neighborhood and stuff.
Well,
And
there's the next show.
yeah, right. And but he played everything. He played bass, he played guitar, he played accordion, he played mandolin. He had like all the instruments in the house. Mm-hmm. So I always got to like just mess around with them. And when he passed away, I was 12. I got one of his guitars from my gran. So that's when I started learning, actually like focusing on learning guitar, because it was just so cool to have his instrument. And so from there it was like I couldn't stop playing. Like my mom, if I misbehaved, which I did a lot, the punishment was she would take my instruments away, so I couldn't play music. Like that was because nothing else worked. Yeah. It was the one thing I'm like, please don't do this to me. Yeah. So yeah, that's when I really got.
For my daughter, it's her Minnie Mouse bubble wand.
Yeah, there you go.
For you,
for my son, it's his mom's chapstick. He loves the chapstick too. He apparently had a 14-minute meltdown today because he didn't get his chapstick. Anyways, yeah. So and yes, in terms of like my identity, identifying as Asian American, and I identify as an Asian American, but I am half Scottish, and my Scottish heritage is also really, really strong. But when I was a kid, especially as throughout like grade school through high school, I was really conflicted because I didn't know what that meant for me, because I didn't know who I was. I was really insecure about it. And so, like, I thought I had to pick one of these things to be.
One of these identities.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that was just a really hard thing to deal with. And I think sort of, like, embracing music was a way for me to find an identity that, like, felt right for myself. And as I got older, I realized I can be both of these things, and it just doesn't matter. So yeah, music was a way for me to sort of like find a community that I could feel a part of, that was like, that didn't make me feel like I needed to like choose, which of course I didn't, but that was
sure
the view that I had as a kid.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Now is country music, country western music, folk music, is that something that's long been something you've been passionate about, or is that a new obsession that led to this play, or is this like a new exploration of this particular genre of music?
That's definitely music that I've been passionate about since I was a kid. Okay. Like, my mom listened to a lot of country music. I loved Garth Brooks when I was a kid. I grew up listening to Bob Dylan, and like he was somebody like in terms of folk music, Americana. Like I loved him. I loved Jim Croce. I love a lot of that American music, and especially like country music. I always felt weird about liking, because it feels like a very insular like community of people that love that music, and it feels like it belongs to a specific identity of American people, and in a lot of ways that has become true, just culturally, I think. And like, so something that I was really interested in exploring was taking country music and like making it a thing that we can all experience together, because it's a beautiful style of music. Especially the stuff from the era that we're pulling from, like the 1940s through the 60s through the 70s.
It is funny. I remember as a kid that was always one of those, touch tone divisive, conversation. Like, do you like country music or not?
Yeah, right.
Right. And I feel like maybe that's changed a little bit as it's like mixed with folk and pop and rock, but I mean I remember that being sort of like a childhood icebreaker.
Yeah.
Like you hate it or you love it, and so I think that's amazing that you're gonna add it to this genre and mix it with these other musics. And
it's a thing. It's a thing that genre has always done too. Like throughout the 50s and the 60s and 70s, they were country music, country western music, whatever, because it was so insular and sort of niche, their goal in that community was like, let's combine it with some other stuff. Like that's where we get like that country pop sound. That's where we get like Glenn Campbell, and like even like Willie Nelson was doing it, and like all these other people who were sort of blending the genres to make it more mainstream and more accessible.
Gotcha.
And it all comes from Black American music. Like sources for a combination of the blues,
blues,
and then Scots Irish immigrant music.
Wow.
And you put those together, and that's where you get like the beginning of what you call country, and then what you call rock, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I geek out on that stuff.
Amazing. Fantastic. So just last question. Man, I'm getting the sense that irreverence is like a big part of the show,
Yes.
right? And what, how do you feel like in rehearsals you found ways to bring that vibe and that energy of irreverence and breaking free kind of into the production?
I think it's a lot in how we work with the comedy of the writing, actually. That, comedy comes from surprise. And to do something unexpected is often to do something irreverent. And that can be aggressive, and in a protest manner, or it can simply be in a surprising, delightful manner. And so if you rehearse in a way that's just really free and everyone can be there, respond, laugh, surprise each other, you start understanding how you're going to break rules together, and then you just keep breaking rules together. And then that all becomes what we might call irreverent. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, fantastic. I'm so excited about the show, and I just want to thank you all for coming in and speaking with us today. Again, this is Matt Yee and Amanda Dennert. We're hearing about a new musical and world premiere of Lucy and Charlie's Honeymoon, performing at Looking Glass. Performances begin May 24th, 2023. Tickets are available at lookingglasstheater.org. There are $35 tickets available in honor of the 35-year anniversary of Looking Glass for all of the performances, but also there are 35 tickets for $35 available for every show. So you got to get there first, pick your night, go get your discounted tickets. We're going to say farewell, but stick around to see some photographs from the first rehearsal and hear some music from the show. Thank you so much for being here, and have fun with this production.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, we gotta do something to get out of town for a while.
To celebrate our marriage with a little bit of style.
Doing bad things with you really gets my heart rate up.
I'm horned up too, I'm ready to screw. I guess this must be love.
How much money did we get there, honey?
942.
Well, hot dog, that's a haul I can handle. Let's go on a honeymoon.
Honeymoon, honeymoon. Let's leave tonight, we'll do it right on our honeymoon.
Now there's a lot of people. Lucy was born a Chinese immigrant, so came looking for a better world. And they knew that she would be the best. They told her when she was a girl. They saved and scrimped for private school, and she excelled pretty okay. But soon found herself quite alienated by the culture of the USA. As she grew up, she realized who she wanted to be wasn't some genius scientist or some chair in the symphony. So she did drugs and fought and spit and wore leather jackets and jeans and smoked in school and fucked the rules. She was a first-generation Asian-American renegade. First-generation Asian-American renegade. She was a first-generation Asian-American renegade.
Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast episode from the League of Chicago Theaters. If you are in the Chicago theater industry and you want to learn more about our events and programs, head to leagueofchicagotheaters.org. If you are a theater lover looking for things to experience, head over to chicagoplays.com for a comprehensive list of all the work going on at our member theaters. You can also head to hottix.org to look for half-price tickets across the city. If you are inspired by the work that you heard about today, please do not hesitate to go to chicagoplays.com/donate to help support our efforts. Thank you for all that you do for the Chicago theater community, and we'll see you next month.